Hi, welcome back. Now we're going to do our second lesson. If you might remember, I mentioned a Tai Chi principle, and that principle was that the movements are rooted in the feet, powered by the legs, directed by the waist, and expressed by the hands or the upper limbs. So we've already established our neutral, and we've established a good root in the feet, in the ground. Now we're going to start looking at springiness in the legs, having a sense of springy power and responsive power in the legs. Certainly the basics of it. Right, so we want shoulder width apart in the feet. We want our weight centered a little bit in front of the heels. We want to bend the knees a little bit. We want to open the inner thighs, round the inner thighs a little bit, that riding on a motorcycle or a skinny horse feeling. And then crease here. See, this is the important one. You really want to feel like this crease is here, especially in this lesson, so that the weight falls here, not out there. Here. Pelvis drops a little, ribs lift a little bit, chin down, head back a little bit, arms shrug out to the sides a little bit, nice bone level, then soften and relax it, then float the joints a little bit. So now he's neutral, so a little bit of movement moves everywhere. Right. There. Okay, so now we're going to do something really, really simple, and that is just to bend a little bit, and then we're just going to bounce ever so slightly into the thighs, like this. Just like you're adding pressure to a system that's pushing back again. If you've ever seen one of those big yoga balls, you push on it and it pushes back. So I'm going to give you a side view here. What I don't want you to do is this. Leaning my pelvis forward and just bouncing my knees over space. I also don't want you to do this. Not just jiggling in place. It's bounce, 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 bounce. It's like 1/1000. Like maybe a couple bounces per second. And you want to feel this springy tension pushing back against you. So it's not loose like an old squeaky bed spring. It's like a Mercedes shock absorber, you know? Like when you push down on it, it's like when I push down on it, I want to feel him give, but with a little resistance. And then when I let go, it comes back. So I want to feel this sense of work in the thighs. You should not feel this in your knees. If you feel pain in the knees, assuming you don't have a serious arthritic condition where there's no cartilage in there, you've got some medical issue about the knees, be very careful. If you've got pain in the knees, it's usually that there's some misalignment, like this, you're bouncing like that, or like that, or you're just out here. So you want to, the knees largely stay over the foot. You feel this bounce, bounce, bounce. So, 50 or so of those, pretty nice. Get your legs activated. So you have your posture and your softness and you're floating the joints, nice solid feeling of rootedness in the feet. Now you're starting to develop a little springy power in the leg. So that's just basic 50-50 weighted bouncing, going gradually a little bit wider. But you don't have to go to, kung fu movie level and having your feet like super wide apart. You can just stand comfortably like that and just do that little bounce there. If you're not used to it, this can be plenty of work. So take it easy, and if you have a partner, your partner can watch and make sure. If you go wider, John, and if you don't attend to your inner thigh rounding, like if he's doing that, the partner can go, that knee is not pointing the same direction as the toe. Can you bring that out a little bit? Yeah, like there. Maybe feel the crease a little bit more, a little more lift. Yeah, something like that. You can watch each other and make sure, because you don't want those knees to twist. We're going to cover this a little more in the next lesson, but we really don't want those knees to twist around. We want to keep them pointing the same direction as the toe or the middle of the foot most of the time. So assuming that feels halfway good, if it doesn't, you may want to just stop the lesson and just play with that for a few days. Every time you get a chance to take a little break from your life and you want to do a little bit of this, you find your neutral, bone level, muscle level, energy level, nice loose joints, supple, ready feeling in the body, and just add some bounces to that. So now you're activating your thighs. Your legs should feel kind of like a spring. That's feeling pretty good and pretty comfortable. Our next step is to go to one leg. So we'll start with our neutral. We'll go ahead, John, do neutral. And then just let your weight shift to one side. and just bounce a little bit over there. You can let the other foot lift and be light. This foot doesn't have to be strong at all. You can just go to one leg and bounce. What I find is if I do this parallel and I go to one side of bouncing, it's a little tricky and I really have to pay attention to my alignment of that straight leg. So the easy thing to do is to just take the other foot and turn the heel towards you a little bit. So you were here, now you're here. See that? And then from there I can bounce. I'm facing the same direction as my front foot. It doesn't matter which foot is forward. If it's you, it's your left, our right. And then you can come back to neutral and reset your posture, bone level. Soften and relax into the muscle level. You can just shift to one leg and see what it feels like to bounce over there. And you'll see it might feel a little uncomfortable because it's a little tricky on the alignment. So all you do is just take that heel in a little bit of the other foot, see? Just in a little bit. And now you're facing the same direction as that other foot, and you just do a little bounce on one leg. The other foot just light on the ground. So there's no body weight out there. Body weight is back here, sends it over the leg. And you'll start to feel it in that leg. It is possible to build up to 500 a day. I've done that before. But 50 on each leg is a nice healthy amount. So there you're taking your basic springy idea and you're pressure testing it a little bit more because now you're on one leg. And when you're on the one leg, you got to pay more attention to your alignment. You got to pay more attention to not holding your body tight and tense and working that leg a little bit more. A further pressure test, if you'd like to go a little bit further, let's establish our neutral again. And let's shift our weight to the left and take the right heel in a little bit. So now we're kind of facing that corner. And the next level is to go even lighter with the foot. So just touching the tip of your toe on the ground, just the very tip, and then bounce there. And of course, you probably guessed the next level is just to pick that foot off the ground. That's where it gets really hard. It's a lot harder to bounce without that little stabilizing toe on the ground. So again, you want this lined up. If you have your partner, watch. But the nice thing about this exercise is, partner or not, if you're twisting in this knee, you won't be able to do this. It'll just hurt. You'll go, ow, I don't want to do that. So when you're aligned, you've got that spring there. So it's a nice little test I give people sometimes when they're doing, you can put your foot down. There's a nice little test I do sometimes, like people will do like a Tai Chi kick or something, and then it's like, while you're doing that kick, can you bounce? Because if you can't bounce in any one of our one-legged positions, if you can't bounce, then you know there's some misalignment there. And again, that bounce is a compression and a release, compression and release. It's not just jiggling on that leg. It's a spring, right? So you take it in and you take it in. So if you play with that one, you have to be careful, especially if you have any balance issues at all. A nice place to do it sometimes is in a kitchen where you have a counter around you. You can just put one finger on that counter and then lift the other leg and see what that's like, and just have it there. I know it seems, if you're fit and you're active and this is something you're adding to an already fit life, then you're not probably going to lose your balance and you're not going to fall over. You're just going to wiggle a little bit. But if you're new to this and your balance is not the greatest, then there's a chance you can fall over, and we don't want anyone to fall over. So it's always nice to have something around you as you experiment with this to just make sure. And if you're at all doubtful, just do it with your foot on the ground like that, just like that. And if you want to go further, you can do that. And if you want to go a little further there. If you really want to go to a more advanced level, you can move this leg around while you're bouncing. That's a lot harder because this knee has to stay there. As I go that way, this knee wants to follow, and I go, no. It stays right where it is. So you can do it with the foot up in the air or down below or all kinds of different places. But really recommend caution there, having your partner nearby to spot you a little bit, having something around that's easy to reach for and that's nice and solid. Because the point is not to go to a stressful level where you're overwhelmed and wiggling around. If you start to lose your posture, just do a reset. Put the foot back down. So if I'm struggling like this, I'm learning how to struggle. So what I want to do is I want to find the unforced balance place. I want to find a place where this is comfortable, not where I'm struggling and working to hang on. If I'm doing that, I'm actually overwhelming myself. It'd be better to do it with my foot on the ground. If even with the foot on the ground, I can't really do it, it's better to do it 50-50. So as soon as you have a certain level, comfortable, then you stress it a little bit more. But our goal here overall is to develop springiness in the legs, a feeling like the legs have some compression in them, some ability to gather force and release it. Because that's what a spring does, right? It stores force and then it releases it. So that's what we want our legs to do, store force and release. And that's what we're doing when we're bouncing. So see if you can take that bouncing into daily life. It's pretty simple, really, if you're waiting for the water to boil or the toast to toast or the conversation that someone's on the phone to end or the commercial to end on TV. Just go to one leg, bounce a little bit, or go to neutral, bounce 50-50, or take your feet a little wider apart, bounce there, or toe out a little bit, bounce there, or go a little wider, bounce there. Just taking that springiness into your life can be, really simple thing and an easy way to just, you're waiting in line at the bank, waiting for a bus. My students tell me all kinds of interesting places. Someone's like, oh, I have a really flat shower floor, so I bounce in the shower. I was like, okay. So wherever you can bounce, that's good stuff. And what this does is it develops this sense of springiness in your legs, in your life. So that when you have this springiness, if something comes at you that you need to push against, you can just go to a springy place. Or if you lose your balance, you've got springs to land on. You don't have to be walking around on stilts. So getting back to the internal feeling of this springiness is that you have options. You don't have a sense of holding yourself fast to positions. Just like we talked about neutral, having a flexible, ready, adaptable kind of frame of mind, a kind of a Tai Chi frame of mind, neutral and open, and let's see what change comes next. This gives you the means to do something about it, the means to correct, the means to move, the means to run. Or at least it symbolizes that. It symbolizes a springy, responsive power unit underneath you that allows you to connect to the ground, allows you to respond and move and adapt to situations. So springiness has a lot of applications, and as you get into Tai Chi further, if you decide you want to seriously undertake this art and find a teacher and learn all the forms and all the exercises, this springiness can be really key to developing a really mobile sense of unforced balance. And unforced balance, that's what this is all about.